Today, while flying a Cessna 206, we had a partial power situation on takeoff that resulted in a safe and successful landing. So I want to talk to you guys about that, what we did to mitigate the risk and make it a good outcome, and what you can do in situations that you will encounter as a pilot like this in your flying career. So my husband actually had a video because he was sitting in the back seat, and I'm going to talk about it. So let's get into it. So we did a completely normal engine start, completely normal run up, did the full run up. And we were well within weight and balance in this 206, and there really wasn't much of a contributing factor with weather today. It was a little bit of a gusty wind situation, but nothing too crazy. It was like winds under 20 knots. And it was only about 70 degrees, so density altitude was not that much of a factor. It really wasn't very hot outside. We rolled onto runway 29, which is over 5,000 feet. And that's plenty of runway in a Cessna 206, and it was plenty of runway that day with our weight and everything like that. And we applied power on the takeoff roll, had all of normal engine indications, and was making enough power on the takeoff roll. However, the moment that I rotated, I kind of started to feel like something was wrong. You know, if you've flown enough, you can just kind of feel when a plane's performance is not quite right. And you can see that on the climb out video with this. So we're low, like you can obviously tell that we're not climbing that fast. If you've ever flown a 206, you know this thing really jumps into the air regardless of weight. I mean, that's the whole thing with the 206. Like these things are used for mail haulers in Alaska out of backcountry strips with mountains around them for a reason, you know? So for us today in this situation, we were not climbing real well. And you can see in the video, like the hangars on the ground are looking pretty close. So in Nampa as well, at runway 29, there are basically no good landing options off the departure end of the runway. So there's a road to the right, there's a golf course, but you're really not in a great situation. So we were continuing to climb. We were getting the stall horn a lot, like at a much higher airspeed than I would expect. So I was just kind of doing pitch and power at this point. I mean, no matter what your airspeed indicator is saying, if you're getting indication of a stall, you're gonna put the nose down, you know? So that's what I was doing. I was just kind of holding whatever pitch picture made this plane, you know, stop giving me indications of stall, basically. So that was part of the factor in us not climbing out as fast, but at the same time, I felt like I was just hanging on the prop in this airplane. I felt like if I put the nose up at all, we would actually start to lose performance as far as climb performance, and we were getting a stall horn. And so, you know, you can't do that. Airspeed is king. You just have to put the nose a little bit lower and just climb out a little bit slower, especially, you know, when you are in situations like I've flown, you know, the Pilatus and so forth in and other general aviation aircraft in like really high density altitudes where you're like max weight. And there's times it's like you're just putting the nose down and you got to just hold on to the airspeed that you got, you know. So that was kind of what I was doing there. About the time that we started to turn crosswind, I think my dad said something about like, you know, I don't know if I'd leave the airport area right now, because all three of us in the plane were just kind of like, man, this is not normal. We are not climbing very well. The engine instruments are all completely normal. All of the, you know, fuel tanks, everything is in a normal configuration, but the airplane's just telling us that aerodynamically it's not too happy, and performance-wise it's not too happy. So we made a left crosswind, and I tend to fly pretty tight patterns. That's a good idea if you're a general aviation pilot, especially if you're one of those like XYZ flight school people that's out on a 4-mile final. Please stop doing that. This is a public service announcement. Stop turning base 4 miles from the airport, because if your engine quits, you're not making the runway. You need to be between a half and a mile distance from the airport, no more. As according to the AIM, half to 1 statute mile from the airport. So not only do you create a traffic conflict in the situation, and I know this is kind of a side tangent, but like this is important, because somebody may turn a normal half-mile base and you're 2 miles away and you're now gonna have like a traffic conflict situation, but you are putting yourself in a dangerous situation. So stop doing that. You need to fly the traffic pattern geometrically at the correct places. So anyways, that's something that I obviously did today. I flew a half-mile traffic pattern. We turned to a downwind, and we're starting to kind of look around because we have the runway made, you know, we're okay. We're starting to kind of look around inside the plane and say, what is going on? Like, why are we not making enough power? Because the engine instruments were saying we were. So we were back in like a cruise configuration at 24 squared. And everything's fine. Like as far as engine gauges, the engine sounded smooth, but it was just aerodynamically, the plane would not really pick up airspeed. We were climbing at about 400 feet per minute on the takeoff leg and on the crosswind, which is not good, and not in a Cessna 206 turbo. And so we just kind of stayed on the downwind. We also turned and we flew kind of on the upwind over the runway, a little offset to the north in this particular runway. And then we tried to climb a little bit more over the airport because we were like, let's just try to kind of spiral over the airport and see what's going on with this plane. Like we weren't planning on leaving the airport area at this point anyways, but we were just curious. We're like, let's troubleshoot it a little bit in a safe manner. But we really couldn't climb. I mean, we got up to 4,000 feet, which is not that high. It's only about 1,500 feet above the airport. And then at this point we said, you know what, let's just land. Like this is one of those situations where we've kind of looked around, we've looked at everything, we've kind of changed throttle positions, we've changed mixture positions, we've changed we've kind of done what we feel is safe, and it's just time to land. So came back around, we're on a downwind and, you know, kind of starting to think about slowing to configure to land, but I really want it to be high. You know I can land the Cessna 206 turbo very short, and it's a 5,000 foot runway. So I'm just gonna stay high in this kind of situation. I remember when I was turning base, my dad said, "You're very high." And I was like, I know. I mean, and he was a little concerned because he's like, well, you know, we don't really want to do a go around right now. But I knew I only had put 10 degrees, you know, 2,800 feet off the ground or whatever. So turned base, I started adding flaps and just kind of came in. And again, I really did a power on approach because I was high on final, and I reduced the power and we just came down like a rock. I mean, even on short final, I added a good bit of power again because I was like, I'm actually kind of like trending short now, you know? I mean, I made the whole approach high because I didn't want to have any issues with that. But anyways, came in, landed, and then taxied right back up to maintenance. We spoke to maintenance, and they were basically saying that it could have been the turbo could have been stuck and things like that. So we weren't actually getting any turbo at any point. So this is the kind of stuff that you're going to do when you have an engine problem, is you're going to stay in glide distance of the runway, and you're going to land the plane, right? If you're below 1,000 feet, you're not troubleshooting anything, you're looking outside, you're not putting your head down, and you're just going to land the plane. So this was kind of an interesting event that we had. Let me know what you think. Have you ever had anything that has happened like this? How did you handle it? It's always important to remember to aviate, navigate, communicate. It's really, really easy when something goes wrong to get head down and kind of sucked into the engine instruments and things like that. But it's really important to remember to fly the plane first of all. Pitch picture plus a power setting gives you performance. And just remember that sometimes you're going to have to forget the normal numbers that you normally use and just listen to the airplane to try to suck any little performance you can get out of it. So hope this is helpful to you guys. This stuff happens a lot in general aviation, and we all can continue to learn and make good, safe decisions.